Okay, so now is here when the lesson starts to get a little bit more complicated. Um, we're going to read a story called The Dinner Party, and together we're going to complete a plot pyramid on the dinner party. So, everybody take out your copies of the story, and you are going to follow along as I read. The country is India. A colonial official and his wife are giving a large dinner party. They are seated with their guests, army officers and government attaches and their wives, and a visiting American naturalist, in their spacious dining room, which has a bare marble floor, open rafters, and wide glass doors opening onto a veranda. A spirited discussion springs up between a young girl who insists that women have outgrown the jumping out of your chair at the sight of a mouse arrow, and a colonel who says they haven't. A woman's unfailing reaction in any crisis, the colonel says, is to scream. And while a man may feel like it, he has that ounce more of nerve control than a woman has. And that last ounce is what counts. The American does not join in the argument, but watches the other guest. As he looks, he sees a strange expression come over the face of the hostess. She is staring straight ahead, her muscles contracting slightly. With a slight gesture, she summons a native boy standing behind her chair and whispers to him. The boy's eyes widen. He quickly leaves the room. Of the guests, none except the American notices this or sees the boy place a bowl of milk on the veranda just outside the open doors. The American comes to with a start. In India, milk in a bowl means only one thing: bait for a snake. He looks up. He realizes there must be a cobra in the room. He looks up at the rafters, the unlikeliest place, but they are bare. 3 corners of the room are empty, and in the fourth, the servants are reading to serve the next course. There is only one place left, under the table. His first impulse is to jump back and warn the others, but he knows the commotion would frighten the cobra into striking. He speaks quickly, the tone of his voice so arresting that it sobers everyone. I want to know just what control everyone at this table has. I will count to 300. That's 5 minutes. And not one of you is to move a muscle. Those who move will forfeit 50 rupees. Ready? The 20 people sit like stone images while he counts. He is saying 280. When out of the corner of his eyes he sees the cobra emerge and make for the bowl of milk. Screams ring out as he jumps to slam the veranda door safely shut. You were right, Colonel, the hostess exclaims. A man has just shown an example of perfect control. Just a minute, the American says, turning to his hostess. Mrs. Waynes, how did you know that cobra was in the room? A faint smile lights up the woman's face as she replies, because it was crawling across my foot. So what just happened there with the woman? Right? They were talking about who has more constraint or who's able to restrain themselves a little bit more, whether it was women or whether it was men. And it seems that the woman had a little bit more constraint because the snake crawled across her foot and she still reacted calmly to it. So what I want you to do now is in your notebooks, I want you to make this plot pyramid. You're going to use an entire page in your notebook because you're going to use the empty white spaces here to fill out information in. So you should have exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and the resolution. I'll give you a few minutes to get this into your notebook. You had 2 minutes. Go. Okay, so let's start with the exposition. So who remembers what information belongs in the exposition? In the exposition, we're supposed to get introduced to the characters, and we're supposed to know the setting, and we're supposed to be able to tell what the main problem in the story is. So, who could tell me what that is? Okay, so good. In your notebooks, what you're going to do near exposition, you're going to write in exposition, setting, India, characters. You're going to give me a list of the characters. You're also going to tell me what the main problem is, and that there is a dinner party and there's a snake in the room, which is the main party. So you have the exposition. Now you're going to give me all of the actions leading up to the most exciting part of the story. What is the most exciting part of the story? Right? The climax is the most important in the story. And maybe the most exciting part of the story for this story is when the snake comes out. Okay, so now I'm giving you the exposition and I'm giving you the climax. You have 10 minutes in your group to fill in the rest of your pyramid, and then we're going to go over it together. While you guys are doing the pyramid in your notebook, I'm going to come around from group to group and see who needs help and see how I can help you guys out. Okay, you have 10 minutes starting now. Go. Alright guys, so you did a pretty good job. As I walked around from groups to groups, I saw everybody was working and everybody was trying. So now let's go over our plot pyramids together. So here in the exposition, we're looking at, we had the setting, right? Dining room in India, and it is a dinner party. So setting is when and where it's taking place. The characters, there's an American, there's the hostess, there's some colonels, and there's the other guests. Okay? And the main problem or the basic situation is that there's a dinner party and a snake in the room. So I started you guys off with that one. What you were supposed to do with your partner was you were supposed to give me all the events leading up to the part where the snake comes out and leaves the room, right? I gave you the climax. So who was able to fill in the sequence of events leading up to the climax? Okay, so we had the American starts a game, right? He notices the hostess reaction. He has servants put milk on the veranda, right? That's the hostess. And the poisonous snake in a room full of people. Those are the things that are sort of happening in the story. So the exciting incident or the inciting incident is when the discussion of the arguments about who can handle situations better. Do women have more constraint or do men have more constraints? So while this discussion is going on and this person knows that the snake is in the room, the American and the hostess, they do all these things to put the milk under the table, right? Small little things to get the snake out of the room. So finally, while they're playing this game, the snake comes out and everybody screams. That is our climax. Next was supposed to be the falling action. Who think they came up with what the falling action is? Remember, the falling action is after the turning point, after they come face to face with the snake. Now, what starts to happen? Okay, good. The host comments on the American way of handling the situation, right? He had a lot of constraint. And then American asked the hostess, how did she know there was a snake in the room? And then he finds out that she has more constraint than him because the snake actually crawled across her foot. And that's how the story ends, with her stating that the snake crawls across her foot. So, okay, I think you guys are ready for your work period activity. And so we move on to the work period. So my star groups, what you guys are going to do, we're all going to read the story Thank You Ma'am by Nathan Hughes. Star groups, you're going to identify the element of the story's plot by filling in the blanks on your plot pyramid. Okay, I've given you all plot pyramids on your table. You're going to fill in the blanks on your plot pyramid. My circle groups, you guys are going to read the story and then you're going to create a diagram, your own diagram that shows the sequence of events in the story's plot. So you cannot use the pyramid. You have to use a diagram that shows the sequence of events in order, but you have to come up with it on your own. And my triangle groups, You guys are going to read the story and then write a summary of the story's plots. That includes all of the elements. I do not want you to label the elements. I want you to write a summary, making sure that you include all of the elements. And I should be able to tell what the elements are just from what you say in your summary. You have 45 minutes to complete your work period, and then we'll come back together, and some people will share what they have done. Okay, so we had a good work period today. Everyone shared. You guys seem to understand plot pretty well. Your closing question in your notebooks: what are the elements of a story's plot? You have 5 minutes to write down everything you know about the elements of a story plot. We'll come back together and we will review it. Okay, so we have the elements of a story plot. We have the exposition, the rise in action, climax, fall in action, and resolution. Exposition, we get to learn the setting, we know who the characters are, and we get introduced to the conflict. Rise in action, the conflict begins to get complicated. There are a sequence of events that build suspense, leading up to the climax, which is the turning point in the story. Okay, the character comes face to face with a problem. So after the climax, it leads us to the falling action. So now the character has faced this problem. The character is going to take steps to solve the problem. Now the story is starting to come to an end. And the end of the story is a resolution. And the character sort of learned a lesson in the story. Okay, so like the lesson that was learned in the story was that probably women and men have the same amount of resolution. It just depends on the person. So that is the end of our story. Your homework for tonight is to read your independent reading books for 30 minutes, and you're going to summarize the pages you read in your reader's response journal. Anybody have any questions? Plot? Homework? Okay. No questions. Class put away your notebooks. Class dismissed.